All right. All right. So we should be live, team.
Man, we talked to this young man on our weekday show a couple of weeks ago, right during the week that he's launching a new project. A friend of mine I know for a long time. The guy has done so much. Of course, a lawyer by trade, executive by trade with Verizon, a
1, 2,
philanthropist, an
3,
author,
4.
uh, investor. Did I leave, did I leave anything out?
I think he plays tennis too.
A singer,
A singer.
an actor, and what else? I'm pretty sure he's going to clue us in. Now we're talking about a gentleman that's walked the walk and talked the talk. He's done it. And he's continued to do it. A guy that when you look around, you have to look forward for somebody that's an African American male that's really is at the forefront of really trying to make a difference in this country. And we're so happy to have with us the founding CEO and definite partner of Solidify. We're talking about BK Fulton. BK, good morning. Good morning.
Hey,
how you doing?
Very good. Good to see everybody. Thanks for having me back.
Well, we had to get you back because, one angry black man came out and we was trying to get a snapshot on that. But even before we get into that, BK, tell people this is your journey real quickly and within 5 minutes if you can, BK. Tell everybody your journey because I think it's important that people know your backdrop. Seriously.
So you want the short version?
There you go. The little version.
All right. Now, brothers like to strut a little bit, but I'm
well, that's fine.
So, yeah, I'm from Hampton, Virginia, and grew up, both my parents were teachers. I grew up, an entrepreneur from 10 years old, cutting grass, and had an idea that I could maybe go to engineering school and applied to Virginia Tech. They had at that time in the early 80s, they were the first school in the country, really in the world, to require incoming engineers to buy a computer as part of their standard school supply. So I've owned a computer most of my life. And I loved the computer, but I didn't love school so much. So I kind of played as much ball as I could, had as many girlfriends as I could. Sorry, Jasmine. And and then got as much sleep as I could, about 10 to 12 hours required. And then I would go to class. Well, that's not a formula for doing well. And so about 6 months in, a year in, I started getting these letters from the registrar that you're about to be on probation if you don't get it together. So I figured I was going to quit school and join the military. And I ended up going to the library to plan my escape from Virginia Tech. Got in the library, and I believe it was divine. I believe God sent me to the E185.5 section of the Dewey Decimal System. And that's where the history of our people are. And I started reading about blood plasma and the first open heart surgery and the filament for the light bulb and all these things that people that look like me had done. And I'm like, wait a minute, I belong here. I can do this. So I went from the probation list to the dean's list to the board of Virginia Tech. They flying a brother in on the jet.
Wow.
To the school. And then fast forward, I had careers at the National Urban League. I got a scholarship to graduate school. Then went on to law school while I worked at the Urban League. And then went on to America Online, Time Warner, a senior position at the Department of Commerce. And then went and worked at Verizon, where I spent the rest of my corporate career and retired in 2015. Sometimes I like to tell people I spent my first 50 years doing what I was trained to do. And now I get to spend the rest of my life doing what God made me to do. Wow. And so what that is telling these stories. I decided to create a media company and an investment company because if reading about those accomplishments of our people could change my life, then what if I put it on the big screen and put it in with great acting and sound and got that to our community? Then more kids, because if I could do it, anybody could do it. So I wanted to, so our whole mission with kind of media with the message is lifting the kids and the culture through pouring into them our successes. Too often when people, when brothers and sisters get to tell our story, it's is through the sadness of our experience. So they want us to tell slave stories, or they want us to tell domestic violence stories, or they want to tell, Pookie got shot stories. I'm tired of shooting Pookie. We get to let Pookie alone, let him grow up.
Right.
and so it's so much more to tell. And other folk from our community have tried to shift the narrative, but we didn't have distribution, or somebody else had some control, or we didn't have enough money to put it together. And so, working in a big corporation, I did pretty well and was able to invest my own dollars initially to get it going. And so now we've got 5 films released. We've got 5 more in the can, 2 more on deck. We have a TV network that's on every mobile phone. We've got a magazine. We've had the founder of Netflix in the magazine, Quincy Jones, Stevie Wonder, Deborah Martin Chase, Vivica Fox. It's just amazing the work we've been able to do with a few people, a few of us working together.
Wow.
United.
Wow.
Outstanding. That's one heck of a story. And you motivate all of us to say to ourselves sometimes, like, man, I got to do better. I mean, I'm coming up a little short on this deal. I got to do much better. But you talked about the network. You talked about the stories that you wanted to tell and the impact you wanted to make in our communities. Because, like you said, you were tired of telling those things. You were tired of seeing the sad side of our history. What are some of the obstacles and some of the things you encountered early on? Matter of fact, talk to me about that first meeting that you had when you said, this is my idea, this is what I want to go do, and like some of the early reactions to that.
Well, I mean, people tell you can't do it. Everybody always want to tell you what you are capable of. And one of the things that I tell young people is you've got to learn to believe in yourself at the start. I mean, Arthur Ashe would tell people, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And that's really, really good advice. What I did was I approach things this way. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. So I'm like, who's done it before? Right. And I look up and see what they did. And so I literally, when I was planning my shift, I developed what I called a blueprint. And I wrote down, I looked up 3 or 4 people that I respect. It was Vernon Jordan, Ron Brown, Marianne Spraggins, and Dick Parsons. All of them had law degrees. That's why I went to law school. All of them worked somewhere in the Northeast. So I went up there and worked at the National Urban League and stayed up there for a little bit, wrote the community redevelopment plan for Central Harlem. My first house was because of that plan I wrote in graduate school. But I was just really following a blueprint that anybody can do. And so when I run into, obviously, you can't make a film because you hadn't been in that industry. I'm like, well, the people that made films, their first film weren't in the industry before they made the first film. So what you talking about? What you talking about? I mean, a professional filmmaker or a professional writer is just an amateur who didn't quit.
That's exactly right.
And so what I started doing was just taking those steps. So I know how to read. So I started reading about the industry. I'm a businessman because it's show business. A lot of times you got people just about the show, vanity projects, but I brought the business and the creative part, and I put that together, and we've been very successful.
Wow. Jasmine? Okay, maybe she can't hear us right now.
Jasmine's trying to figure out if she wants to join us right now.
Okay. Well, hey, BK, the reason I really wanted you, we're talking to BK Fulton. Obviously, if you heard his background, it's amazing. Just your path to where you are now. Let's talk about, and we're gonna get into some of your projects a little later, but I really want to get your opinion because it's so hot. The world we're in peril right now. We're looking for leadership. We're looking for something to hang our hands on, to hold on to. Just your reflection on what's going on in the country in particular, but in the world as well, in terms of the Black Lives Matter, and things of that nature. I'm curious your input about that.
Okay. Well, you and I, Reese, are kind of some of the OGs in the civil rights movement. This ain't new to us. We done seen these killings, people protest and things like that. Right. I mean, my master's thesis was about redeveloping some of the stuff that was burned down in Harlem back from the 60s.
Yep.
But today, I'm very proud of the young people and how it's all different ethnicities coming out and saying Black Lives Matter. Because if Black Lives Matter, don't no lives matter. If my son is at risk, your son is at risk. If my daughter is at risk, your daughter's at risk. And so I'm proud of them. They've sustained it. They've kept it going. They've been peaceful. Other people have tried to come in and mess up the message. But overall, I think people will say that these young people have said enough. And they're right. When you think about some of the things they're pointing to, so some of the icons, the monuments here in Richmond, some of the racist things that were put up to say who was in charge, that these things are coming down is important. I think just today, Pharrell was in Richmond, right, actually not too far from where I'm filming now, to announce with the governor to make Juneteenth a holiday. And so that's this Friday. Wow. Yeah. So a lot of good things happening, and I like the symbolism of them. And then what we are going to have to help the young people with, because we may have a different access to the political system.
That's exactly right.
Than they do. So we can help them to also make sure that there are dollars for scholarships and education for school, that there are dollars for economic self-sufficiency and businesses and training, that there are programs for people coming out of an incarceration situation. So that at the end of the day, we are lifting the infrastructure of our communities. So that it's not just about take down a statue and give me a holiday, but it's let's get some equity, let's get some parity, let us get on another level so that we are competing and informed about opportunities in the same way that other communities are. Because I mean, we've demonstrated that we're ready to do the work.
Yeah.
You know, we the last of the people. People like to say sometimes people were lazy and that sort of thing. No. Our people are some of the hardest working people on the planet and some of the kindest people on the planet. But at some point, enough is enough. I mean, I tell people, look, when I was 23 years old, I almost got shot in my back. And then I just happened to turn around. The third time I heard this, hey, you. And it was an officer. He had already had his weapon out. I'm like, whoa. I'm doing that scholarship.
Right.
And it just happens. I mean, I was surprised that, I'll say that. I was surprised. First, I was going to say, I guess I shouldn't have been. But it's just so many brothers that had a run-in with police that could have gone the wrong way.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now, what I've learned to do, though, because I got some officers in my family, I carry a PBA card, in fact, is that what I do is if I see an officer, I try to disarm the situation right away. I did a U-turn in the middle of a main street in Northern Virginia, and the sirens went on. Now, my wife and I had on tuxedos, so we didn't look like we had stolen nothing, I guess. But he pulled up on us, and I say, before he could say anything, I was like, officer, I'm heading to the Wolf Trap Lodge and to meet with the governor. And I don't know where to go. Can you give me some direction? The whole situation. Yeah. So one, I let them know. I know some people now.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. But we have to teach our kids how to code switch.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, when I was going to graduate school, I used to live in Brooklyn, and was in school in Manhattan initially before I moved to Harlem. And it was a 2-stop. So you had to train, bus to get to my street. And so just like with different communities, we have to code switch. Sometimes with our own, we got to code switch. So I'm walking home, it's dark, Flatbush.
Oh, I know you're talking about, yeah.
I'm on one side of the street, and I see about 4 young brothers. I cross the street, they cross the street. I'm like, oh, hell, now I got to fight. So check it out. So when they got in earshot, 2 years ago, a friend of mine, I was like, he ain't got no money. He ain't got no money.
They're like, no need to rob him.
You got to switch that thing up a little bit. That's a good one there.
And we have to know how to do that. And I think that all our lives we've had to be able to be that chameleon and to pour into whatever situation we found ourselves in for our very survival. And that is taxing. That's traumatic. I still remember that guy drew down on me. I still remember times where I was concerned for my life or the life of someone I loved. And that's not right. when you play by the rules, you're supposed to benefit. Right. And I think what the young people are calling for today is let's make things right, and we can do it, and no more empty promises. So I love what's happening. I wrote a statement for my company where we align with Black Lives Matter. We call for a federal anti-lynching bill. We call for some equity in education spending, some equity and opportunities for businesses to get equity and investment. It's time.
Wow.
I have a question about the code switching and other forms of assimilation that often, minority groups have to perform. Do you think that part of a change or a shift in that is kind of like noticeably not code switching to create a sense of normalcy for the different cultures in America?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think that as we get further away from 1619, people start to have a little amnesia sometimes until there's a killing. I thought, and I want to believe that things have gotten so much better that we don't have to, and that racism is starting to fade, and we're post-racial. But then you see what happened in Minneapolis, and you realize that maybe it hasn't gone away as much as it's now being recorded. And so all of a sudden now you're seeing all these incidents. And now, I mean, technology has always been an interesting ally for us. You think about the civil rights movement, when people in their homes saw these beautiful brown people being dog sicked on them and water hoses, on their TV.
Right,
they were like, wait a minute, those people are peaceful. What's going on? Is that America? Is that what I want my kids growing up in? And so today, when we see these things over and over again, where people record them on their phone, thank God for these phones with the cameras on. Right. And so I think my prayer, Jasmine, is that we are moving closer to a day where we're all judged by the content of our character. Right. I don't believe we're there yet. I wrote a piece on Saturday that was published Sunday, and then it'll be put out again by Maria Shriver in her Sunday paper, kind of Voices Above the Noise. And I called it The Divine Puzzle. And in that piece, I said, wouldn't it be great if we all behaved like pieces in a divine puzzle, where all of us added value, and you worked on your piece, and Reese worked on his piece, and K-Mac worked on his piece. And together, when we brought the pieces together, the picture was love. We can get there, but we have to do the work. And it's so much indoctrination on one point of view and not enough critical thinking. So we got to close the gap between that indoctrination and that critical thinking. And that's where the truth is. That's where the love is. And I want to believe that the whole world wants a civil society. I do believe that.
Wow, man, you dropping real knowledge tonight. I knew this would be pretty interesting. I think was it the commencement you did for VCU, or just to speak? You spoke to a class at VCU, and I can only imagine speaking to such a large and robust class of young people and looking out and seeing the optimism in their eyes. One of the things that they see and that they've experienced, that they lived, and trying to figure out how to connect this puzzle and put this puzzle together. Give me some insight into some of the things you gave, for some of those young people during that speech.
Sure. So that was the second speech I had done in 6 months. So I did, in December, I did Norfolk State, where I'm on the board. And then VCU had seen pieces of that and asked me if I would speak to the students at the Da Vinci Center. And so I said, of course. And then the pandemic hit. So we came up with doing a virtual commencement address. So I pulled in one of our guys who's a Grammy-winning producer, Sim Stevenson. He won a Grammy with Michael Bublé. And then I pulled in my guy who worked with Martin Scorsese. He's on the team, Q, right-hand man. And then Monty Ross, who built 40 Acres and a Mule with Spike. So he's on the team. So they live on the South Side. And they my brothers. Got another little guy that writes a little bit named Nick, he's an honor student from we pulled the four horsemen together. And then my bride was kind of the editor on the speech. And
Right.
we got it together and said, let's put together a production where we could deliver a quality virtual speech. So the young people in this program, and this program is a diverse program of all the major schools at VCU and all and some of the most talented kids, and put them in one environment where they pull from different disciplines and then go out to become entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And so anyway, in the speech, the focus of it was remember the people on the margins. What I wanted to establish was that there is not a day that goes by that you don't experience something that was created by a woman, a minority, or someone outside the economic mainstream. Not a day that goes by. You take it for granted. The lights, you take it for granted. Heating systems, alarms. Most people don't know that a woman invented the a security system to include with a camera, Ring doorbell. She didn't call it Ring doorbell, but that's what she invented. GPS, little short sister, invented GPS. COBOL, invented by a white lady. I could go on and on. Refrigerated trucks that allow you to get your fresh produce. And then I talked about people with disabilities. I got a little bit of dyslexia, and that's okay. So did George Washington. So did JFK. So did Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And so I talked about those people and talked about how Leonardo da Vinci was on the margins, and even then hit him over the head with a little bit about Einstein. So I have a picture in my office of Einstein teaching these brothers at Lincoln University. And I always used to wonder why he would do that. He was a busy scientist and he rarely accepted guest lecture requests. Well, it turns out that during the war, the US had this policy called a public charge policy. And German Jews were having difficulty getting into the country to escape the Holocaust because you had to prove that you wouldn't be a burden on America. And so basically, HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, brought in some of these German Jews to let them get jobs and become professors at the HBCUs and escape the Holocaust. Not the more prestigious schools, not the US government, HBCU. So check this out. Guess what Einstein was?
Where?
He was a German Jew. So he knew this history. So when he was going to the HBCUs, he was paying them back for taking care of his people.
I have never heard. That's very interesting. Damn, I
never heard that before.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. That's why we got to make sure our people read and know the truth, because then all of a sudden you start looking at this thing differently. That's part of the reason there's always been a strong relationship between our community and the Jewish community. And then, so I'm telling them about stuff like that. So people would tell me, I've got a lot of good reviews. They cry when they see the speech. I mean, the music was done specifically.
Oh yeah.
We show the lights. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. So Lewis Latimer, so they know about the filament for the light bulb, but did you know he drew the patent drawings for the telephone also? In addition to that, he wrote the first book on incandescence. Not the first Black book, but the first book in the country on incandescence. Lewis Latimer did plans to light up London, New York, some other major areas. And so at the end of the day, it's all these things. Then he sold a lot of his writings, drawings, and et cetera to the company that became General Electric. Lewis Latimer, a brother, his parents were slaves in Virginia that escaped north so he could have a better life. So think about it. Somebody who wasn't supposed to learn to read created the carbon filament for lights and drew the patent drawings for the telephone.
That alone is amazing. I made this comment last week when I was on the show. I think a lot of people are intimidated by us basically because of our creativity and our ability to make things happen without nothing. And that's part of the kind of pushback we're getting right now. But hopefully, as you mentioned, the young people out there and different people look different than we do. It's changing the narrative. Hey, BK, we got to switch gears a little bit. June 5th, last week, you released
One Angry Black Man.
Yeah, one Angry Black Man. First of all, how's it doing so far?
It's doing great. As a matter of fact, we opened so well that our distribution company, Freestyle Media, is a Byron Allen company. They came back and said, let's add theatrical. So now, in addition to cable, online services everywhere worldwide, we're in about 90 theaters. So the theaters now are adding virtual services because you can't actually go. So we got virtual distribution in theaters. So it's like it's a blessing. So we're having a good time with that, and the reviews are coming in nice. So that one is probably going to be our first big hit as a production company.
Can you, for the people who go ahead, Jay?
Yeah, can you maybe the plot of One Angry Black Man, what it's about, things like that?
Sure. So the protagonist, Mike, is a senior at Frost College in the Northeast. Y'all got that right, Frost College.
Northeast, Frost. Got it. I see you're not the writer, but it's okay.
It's cold. Okay. All right. But Frost College, and it opens with him being interrogated. And then he's walking across campus going to class, and he's got to present in his favorite Black literature class.
Oh yeah.
And then you don't find out why he was let go until the last 10 minutes. And it's beautiful. The class is an opportunity for everybody. So it's got every ethnicity represented, different sexual persuasion, different politics. And we use the genius of Zora Neale Hurston, James Baldwin, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and August Wilson as books that the kids are talking about, to talk about current issues of the day. And it's beautiful. And it's like you get to look in on a conversation that's real and authentic. Why this mother is concerned for her son, why this person is concerned for his political party, why this one voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And we put it all in there. We don't hide anything. We don't hold back. It's rated R because the language can get a little tough every now and then, but it's very authentic. It's what you would experience in a college classroom in modern times.
Wow. Did you receive any pushback on why did you choose One Angry Black Man? Why does he have to be angry?
We didn't get much pushback. We actually used the name to get people to talk about when they've been stereotyped, because often they assume that we're angry. If we start talking about how we feel about something, oh, well, wait a minute, don't be so angry. I'm not angry. I might be animated, but I'm not angry.
Yeah.
and so people often use that trope. So we decided to leverage it as a bit of a metaphor of how you enter into an experience with Black men, but also we open it up so that there's a conversation. And what you find out is something that people say is enlightening. People say, thank you for respecting my intelligence. Stacy Spikes, the founder of Urban World, the largest multicultural film festival on the planet, put it in his top 10 list with a few other films. So we're very proud of this project. And we got some more coming. We got some bangers coming. We got one coming in November called Freedom's Path that's going to knock you out your seat.
Nice.
I was struck with the, as you mentioned, the diversity of the movie, and also how the instructor in that special class they had, how she's able to navigate the different opinions and a lot of emotional response and things of that nature.
Don't give away the movie.
No, I'm not. That's not a great movie. I'm just telling you that it's something worth to do. I mean, worth to go and watch. Oh, yeah, exactly.
I appreciate that. And so Carla was really an important character because she kind of guided the discussion and sometimes had the students to guide the discussion. So it was positive. And we all can think of that one professor or that one teacher who said something to us and it was the right medicine at the time. I think teachers aren't respected enough. I remember one time it saddened me when I read a lady, it was in the Wall Street Journal, and they were saying, well, I had to do this with my child and because she is just a teacher. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. That's disrespect. That woman has your child all day.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
day.
Right.
You might want to show some proper respect. And so I taught a little bit when I was in graduate school. Both my parents are lifelong teachers, and it's if the young people don't learn, we didn't teach. A lot of times people want to blame the kids, but they can't. And so we have to do the work to help them, and then when we bring them up right, they will do right. I mean, one of the things, so what's interesting, what I often get is the question that's, well, BK, how do you deal when people, if they still call you out your name or disrespect you in a way, you're in a meeting and they don't know you're the boss, so they talking to your colleagues or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I say sometimes I just sit back and observe. And then I was in this meeting one time and they were talking to my staff. And then they said, what do you think? We got a deal? And they turned to me, we got to ask our boss. And then you can see the room turning all different kind of shapes. It was like a rainbow in there. It's hilarious. At the end of the day, it's all love. It's all good. I want our young people to be confident. And so by making the kind of movies that we make with the medicines that we put in it, we show leaders, we show them as judges, we show them as decision makers. Our first movie had Taye Diggs, George Lopez, Luke Hemsworth, and John Cusack. And it was Lopez's first dramatic role. And Taye was a judge, and they both had kids that were killed by officers. And this officer in particular, it's called River Runs Red. And that one was debuted in theaters, then it was on Netflix, and then it's had a run on Showtime. And so, fortunately, all of our films have been pretty well received, and One Angry Black Man is leading the pack.
Outstanding. Outstanding. I know. So we have Chucky. Chucky joined us. He's
Chucky
been on
Brown.
for a minute. Chucky
What's up,
Brown.
man?
Hey, brother.
What's up, BK?
How you doing now?
Doing
Chucky.
good, doing good. I was sitting backstage listening, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, K-Mac.
No, I was gonna say if you had a question, I'll let you chime in because I know you've been backstage for a minute. Listen.
Yeah, I
if
was
you wanna
listening,
chime in.
man, and like when BK was talking and talking about like the angry black man thing, I can remember it just brought back into my mind. I was coming back from the Bahamas, and my flight was our flight was late getting in, so they was holding the plane. So as I'm running to get to my flight in Charlotte to get back to Raleigh, the plane is sitting there, and they told me that they're not gonna let me on. And so as I was like, well, I can't be the angry black man. You know what I'm saying? So that just came to mind when he said that, when BK said that, because I couldn't, because that's how they would have looked at, because I'm big already.
Yeah.
So they would have looked at me kind of crazy. And I also was listening to, how BK was talking about, since I've been working in this high school, one thing that I've learned is that, you have to listen to the kids, man. And like he said, like if they didn't learn, you didn't teach. And I take that, on when I'm coaching basketball, I take that same approach, man. And I just, I got my notepad again, taking notes. So, so I mean, I just sit back and listen. But yeah, that stuff right there, it's so true, man. It's so true.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's real talk, and I think our kids are enough to have it. And I know for me, I had uncles and my dad and my grandfathers. I mean, there was a time when I was in college, I had all my grandparents and 3 out of 4 of my great grandparents alive.
Oh wow!
And so I got to spend time with them, and I love that intergenerational exchange, and they poured into me. One of the things, somebody said it earlier, our people have had to be creative to survive.
Yeah.
And so it's like you make a way out of no way. And so even in this pandemic, you can figure out ways to connect. I love that y'all have this show. We got the cameras working. We in different places, but that's okay. We can still do the quality work and feed the people what they need, take their questions, answer them to the best of our ability. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. But think about the perfect storm of this. So we had this movie to come out named One Angry Black Man at a time where people were angry.
Yeah.
Where crazy stuff was happening in the streets. George Floyd killed.
Yep.
The brother jogging, shot. And then the week that we released was the same week of the anniversary of the Tulsa race riots. So it was like a divine order. And then people at home needing to do something. And so they're watching movies. And so we had something that came out that helped people to process how to deal with these issues. I even had some young guys that we mentor, because that's part of our work is to mentor people, like I said, media with the message. And so the brother came to us and said, BK, we want to do something. And it was like a Thursday. I was like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, we want to do something, have it ready on Monday. I'm like, you want to do what? We want to come film you on Friday. We want to put the music together and have something out, because you told us to do something constructive. I was like, okay, fine. That's what I told you, that I got to live up to it. Let's go. So they came up Friday. We tried to keep social distance best we could. I brought my man over. Q came over. Nick came over. My man on that does the music in New York. I said, all right, get ready. We're going to send you this Saturday night at 5:00. And you got to put the music together. You got 24 hours. And I know, and they ain't paying nobody on this. This is this love work.
That's real critical there.
This when you said I'm power to the people. All right. And so the brothers came through. Everybody came through. And then by Monday at noon, we had an 8-minute video done with a music score, with all the cards cut. The lower third blocks done, and a website set up that could take donations 100%.
Oh wow!
Tax deductible. So sign me up now. We created that in 48 hours.
Wow!
Oh wow!
The beauty of technology, I tell you.
Technology. The beauty of us working together. That's one of the core messages. Whether like Chucky said, he got a team, right? Your best guy can't win by himself.
Right.
That's right.
Your best player can't do it, but they need that team. That team together is strong. You got one finger, you hit somebody, I do martial arts. You hit somebody, you might break your finger. You ball up that fist, you're going to knock a joke out.
I use that, by the way, BK. I use that analogy sometimes.
Kind of embrace and understand what you're trying to say. Because what I do also, because another thing that happens for me, because once people see the assets in terms of the movies and the magazines and stuff, then they say, well, you just special, you're exceptional, and they try to make me some kind of alien or something, like they did with our ancestors. Well, y'all couldn't have built the pyramids; it had to be aliens. Why I got to be aliens now? So what I tell people, no, don't try to make me unique.
Right.
All our kids can do. You just ain't doing the work to invest in them. You're not doing it to love them right. You're not doing the work to lift them up. You showing them stuff that make them feel bad about themselves instead of stuff to make them feel good about themselves. Then get mad when they act out. Here's another thing that's important. We're gonna do for free, well, almost free, basically at no profit to us. We're working with a group out here in Richmond, and they are helping young people with getting glasses and things. I didn't know this, but in many urban schools, as many as 30 to 50% of the kids can't see the board.
Wow.
And then in the special ed class, it's like 70%.
Right.
That's a fixable problem. So basically what this group does is they get the kids diagnosed, get them glasses, and then they can see the board. When we go back to test fit them and put the glasses on to make sure they fit before they get the final one, they don't want to give them back because all of a sudden they can see. And when you're young, when you're 5 and 6 and 7, you don't know how to tell something that something's wrong.
Right.
Right. And then there's a stigma in the community about glasses. You're gonna be 4-eyed. You're gonna get beat up. So one of my books I wrote called Smart Guy Glasses. I wrote about this. So they want to use my book to help to change the attitude about glasses. Because I used to hate my glasses for real. I had like a astigmatism. And so I had one eye stronger than the other. And so I had to wear a patch. And I said, man, I ain't never wear that patch to school. And when I got
They start calling you one eye. They call you a pirate. Call you a pirate or something.
Reese.
I would lose my glasses, and then my mom caught on. She was like, "Wait a minute, you losing these glasses on purpose? I'm gonna start taking your glasses out your allowance." So all of a sudden, I was like, "Okay, I ain't losing glasses no more." Because then I can't take my allowance money. And so then all of a sudden, I wore my glasses, and I could see the board. I was like, "What?" I won the spelling bee. I was like, "Man, glasses give me a superpower." And then so now I wear them when I'm reading and stuff like that. But we gotta help folk we gotta make sure that they're cared for and loved. And if you're paying attention to our kids, most times they'll tell you what they need. And then we have to step up and try to bring it to them or help them to get it as best we can.
Wow, that's good stuff there, man.
Man, BK, just listening to you talk about, things like that and things that happen in our community. And when you talk about, racism and other things, sometimes it's not necessarily about, racism as you can, imagine people burning crosses in your yard. It's about the disadvantages that just people of our community, just because of our community, the way we started and where we are, those disadvantages, and merely most of those are only because of the things that have happened to us economically and things in our community, which are a byproduct of some of the racism, redlining, and in the robbing of wealth in Tulsa and places like that. All of those type things contribute to something as simple as what you just mentioned: not being able to afford health care to get your child glasses.
You're right. Absolutely.
So the question I have now is I want to ask you just personally right now is, you've done a lot of things. You've been very successful. A lot of people are looking at, all the things that you've done. And did you envision yourself being where you are, doing what you're doing right now? And what's the next step as far as the mark you want to leave for our community, for what we have, for what we're doing right now?
Okay, so there's several parts to this. Let me see if I can address them. Once I figured out who I was, so I had to read a lot of history and go back to the E185.5 section and get a lot more of those. And so once I did that, then I sat down and wrote a 50-year plan 30 years ago.
Wow.
Part of that plan was to retire by my 50th birthday. I retired at 49 years, 348 days. So pretty much right in there. And then I turned on the legacy part of my life, which is where I'm in now. And part of what I want to do is make at least 70 films that tell our story, that lift us up. I want to leave behind this kind of meaningful record of tools, resources, and information that young people and families, and really across all ethnicities and generations, can benefit from. The last thing on my plan, my wife didn't believe before we got married, she didn't believe I had done this until I pulled it out and I showed her. And the last thing on my plan is to build the Rising Sons and Daughters Foundation, because I want to provide scholarships to those people who are kind of like me, like in the middle. So I wasn't the perfect A student. I wasn't flunking out. So most times the programs in our country go to the kids that's doing the worst, and they only help them to be so much, or the kids that's already doing pretty good. The ones in the middle, they assume we're going to figure it out. And that's the bulk of the kids. So what I want to do is help those kids to make sure that they succeed and provide incentives, scholarships, use the technology. I call it using the tools of your time to make sure positive messages like these get out, et cetera. And so those are the sorts of things that are up next. And then we'll put out, I'm writing, I wrote 8 books last year. I'm going to write at least 1 novel, maybe 2. I've actually already written them. I'm just doing what they call polishing them. I wrote another Mr. Business book. So each one of the novels, one of them is like 288 pages. The other one is about 250. So Turn Left. It's a love story. The first line goes, turn left. It was the second time I heard the voice of God and the first time I listened, and my life has never been the same. That's how it starts out. It's gonna be it's a love story.
I figured Jazz would jump all over that one.
Hold on, BK. Hold on, BK. I got to get my Chucky pen out. Can you say that one more time?
You want me to? And so, but turn left. Yeah, I'll say it one more time. All right, here you go. Turn left. It was the second time I heard the voice of God, and the first time I listened, and my life has never been the same.
Wow.
Turn left starts. And then I have another one called Love's Insurrection. And I actually wrote a screenplay with that one. And that's about learning to love by loving yourself and your history, and how this brother, his fourth generation grandfather, taught his fourth generation grandmother how to read with love notes. And the first one she read on her own was his proposal of marriage. And so into that, there are a number of auctions, but instead of being slave auctions, it's furniture auctions. The fourth generation grandfather is a carpenter, and he makes all this furniture, but he has this special insignia he carves in the furniture to show the love for his lady. And then there are 3 weddings in it: a wedding in 1865, a wedding in the 1920s, and a wedding in present day. And I just wanted to show the difference in the ceremonies, but also that our people always love, and we always try to approach situations with care for each other. Right. And what you don't get in some of the slave movies is that grandma and them would do work all day, and then walk 10, 20, 30 miles to go check on a family member on another plantation to make sure they're okay. That's who we are. That's who we are as a people. Sometimes folk wonder, they get, like somebody was saying earlier, about maybe a little jealousy because we're so creative. If they really took the time and had to learn who we are, they would learn how gifted we are. We ain't trying to tear stuff down. We're trying to build everything up, because that's who we are. And so one of the things I tell my white friends is, we all cousins trying to find our way home. I want to invite you back into humanity. I want to invite you in and see forward with me. The windshield is way bigger than the rear view mirror. If we're looking at everything from the past, it ain't but so much room to grow. But if we look forward, we got the world to look forward to. It's like this. And it's really important for young people to get this. Okay, so the only time you really have in any given day is right now. The past is gone. You can't get it back. You can't reverse time. It's done. The future is not here yet. But what you do right now determines what happens in the future. But you got now. So live in the here and now. Plan for the future.
Wow.
Plan to be great. But you have to live now. You got to do your work now. The other thing I tell people, tomorrow isn't promised. God didn't promise how long you'll be here. And so because of that, you live each day rejoicing. So I say that means treat yourself well. Don't mean go damn crazy. So Reese, don't go crazy.
Well, I'm taking notes, BK, already, man. But BK, I do have a question for you again. That was great advice. And just FYI, next time you review your books, we have some real nice lighting in the background with Barry White playing. You got to have that for the effect.
The finger snaps going for you. We get the finger snaps going for you.
I like that.
So BK, so I know I hadn't heard the answer to this question, but I'm pretty sure you got something in play. What are you putting together for the next BK? What kind of platform you putting together so you can create the next guy to follow your footsteps and be as creative and have access to the resources as you do as well?
Well, I have 3 sons that we're working on.
Okay.
One of the things that our generation did in the civil rights struggle was we handed the kids the benefits of the civil rights, but they didn't get the lessons from the struggle. And that's the work part. And so I don't want to give away too easily. So our sons don't live in the house with us. They're 23 and 28. And so I tell them, look, you can't come and live with me. We got you a house by the school that you should be going to. I'll make sure you got a roof over your head, but you got to learn to do the work. And so part of what we've done is set them up and try to give them the tools to be self-sufficient, ultimately while successful, if they pay attention and learn. But the other thing we're doing in creating a legacy, because it's important for us to try to create generational wealth and pass it on, is that we're investing in technology. So we've talked mostly tonight about what's going on out there in them streets and some of our creative projects. What we haven't talked too much about is the technical side of our investment. So I'm the founding chairman emeritus of Ario, one of the world's leading augmented reality companies. And that company is doing quite well. We won the 5G challenge. There was a 7-figure purse just in January. Before that, we won the NATO challenge, another global challenge. We won Plug and Play in the summer in a recent year. And so that business is going. I'm about to launch with Stacy Spikes, the original founder of MoviePass, a app called Pre-Show. Pre-Show will allow people to go to the movies, pay for IMAX, or pay for any of their digital streaming services just by watching the ad. We have the proprietary technology, we have the patent on it, and some brothers brought this out. People are going to be amazed. It's going to be worldwide. So that's going to be a game changer. I'm also chairman of a couple of cybersecurity companies. We have a cybersecurity company that has the most powerful encryption in the world, 10 to the 512. That's a quantum level encryption. And I'm the chairman of both companies, and we'll sell those companies. So what I plan to do is leave behind a legacy of excellence. And every time somebody say, well, you just do this or you just do that. No, we can do whatever we choose to do because we're children of God and we're blessed. Right. And we work together. And so if I were to sum it all up, I want people to remember that when we work together, when we come together in the divine puzzle of life, the picture is always love. And if you draw on that and draw on your friends, don't worry about what you don't got. Worry about what you do have. Don't worry about where you haven't been. Focus on where you're going. Don't worry about all the negatives that are around you because they will bog you down. What I tell people is focusing on failure is an inadequate contribution to the future of your success. What you have to do is learn to aim high, aim big, and then figure out whoever you respect who's done that, and then follow their blueprint until you are wise enough to add your own scaffolding and you can follow it as well. But you are enough. You don't have to be 140 or genius level on the IQ test to be successful.
See, not to cut you off, BK, I love that point because a lot of people think you have to be special to do that. No, you just gotta work hard. You gotta be somewhat creative, but you don't have to have the highest, if you score, on the IQ test, if you will.
That's right.
Outstanding. Jasmine, you got a question, Jasmine?
Not a question, but a note that I think you touched on, and I think now you're kind of bringing it up, at least in my mind. So when you talked about kind of that turning point in your life, it was almost like a confidence you received from learning about who we are as Black people. And then I guess, in ways that we apply it, when you think about our education system, and if we're not taught those things, we are going out into the world less confident than maybe our white counterparts. And so I think that it's an interesting note. But when you talk about, how to aim high and things like that, I almost feel like we don't necessarily have that, or everyone didn't always come out, of school or come out the gate with that ability to aim as high because they are not as confident. So in what ways can you increase the confidence? I know, like for you were saying the stories that you tell, they aim to instill confidence. And so I guess in what other ways can we do that for my generation, younger generations to come?
Sure. I'm a big fan of biographies. So there's somebody that you respect right now. And so what you do is you read the short version, the Wikipedia version of their story, or you go get the long version. I just finished an 800-page biography on Leonardo da Vinci. But I've also read about Frederick Douglass, one of my favorite things. And so reading those biographies arms you because they lived. And so, so when people say, well, BK, somebody calls you out your name, how do you respond to that? I respond the way Frederick Douglass responded when they really called him out his name. And you know what the brother said? He said, no moral or well-bred man will affront me and no other can. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then shoot, I ain't got to worry about nothing.
Right.
If a cat is coming at me crazy, that ain't on me. That's on them.
That's right.
So at some point, you begin to learn how to de-emphasize the significance of your offenders. And you go on doing your thing because you, again, are learning who you are. You are becoming. And so reading is critical. I just had a brother, an artist friend. He said, BK, I just want to do something special for you. What can I do? What do you give somebody that has everything he wants? I was like, well, you make those beautiful bags, man. How about making me a bag? But I want you to put some on the back of it for me. And so he put on the back of it one of my quotes that I use with the Mr. Business books: readers become leaders. And so it's beautiful. He did that for me. And so what I'm going to do is anything I'm working on, I'm going to put it in that bag. So then I always know where it is. Sometimes I do stuff, but I know where it is. And I'm going to use that. And then after I connect it to someone that I care about, that cares about me, he actually came back into my life because he saw the speech. And I bought some of his art maybe 10 years ago. And but Jasmine, read about the people you respect. I mean, in today's world, you can YouTube and see the video of their life, But I think that's definitely one way to do it. I think the other thing to do with young people is, so somebody younger than you who doesn't know all the things you know, you bring them into your world deliberately. That way they don't say nothing. They look, sit over in the corner, don't say nothing. Because you ain't supposed to be in this meeting, but I want you to go, and then they can see how you interact and work, and it'll help with the confidence. Because a lot of times, I remember I didn't used to like to go to fancy dinners when I was young because I didn't know how to mess with all that silverware. It's like, what do you do? I used to like to go to the golf country club with all them damn rules. I'm like, all right, which do I drop off the bag?
Oh yeah.
I just shoot some basketball.
That's a good one.
And so, but we got to expose ourselves to the things, different things, to decide what we like and don't like. Now, I ain't saying go do crazy stuff. What I'm saying is, read that history, read those biographies, get a blueprint, expose young people, pull them up, lift as you climb. Very important. Because here's another reason why it's very important to lift as you climb. And I know people say like each one teach one. My flip on that is each one teach as many as you can. Because if I'm one and I teach one, when I go, it's just one left. So we don't have growth. It's a flat line. Right. But if I'm one and I teach 5, when I go, it's still 5. And one of them go, it's still 4. And so each one teach as many as you can. So that's why media is probably one of the most powerful tools available to human beings, especially like television and video. And now all of us have access to it. And so, and also art is very powerful. Art can heal, because art is like Quincy Jones taught me that music is kind of a universal language. And I kind of extend that to art as being a universal language. And so what can happen with art is I can have that conversation in One Angry Black Man. It's a movie, but it's affecting people. I can have that romantic comedy, love.com, and present a brother that's got everything the girl says she wants, but she want to still go online and see if the computer matches. You're going to have that. We can show in River Runs Red what happens when there's no justice, and some cats that's upset start to go, blah, 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 because that's what things come to when there's no justice, no peace. And so we can do that in the film. It's hard. We're not advocating one way or another. In the One Angry Black Man, let's say I like protests. I'm not advocating protest. I'm just saying, it happens. And so you can do that. And I think once we come into the fullness of who we are, then we are less impacted by the pathology of others. And we know how to pull the levers. We're voting and we're getting into the office. I mean, there's a black mayor here, and he said, look, this one got to go. We're going to change this. We're going to take down them racist statues. The governor and those folk are friends. Pharrell, like I said, was in town. They're going to make a holiday out of Juneteenth. And so we've got to engage in the process. And so we have to learn not to just get angry, but to get to a place where we are pulling the levers, where we are in charge, where we are in control, where we are making the decisions. Right. And then I think every time that young person then sees themselves in those roles or sees people that look like them in those roles, it's easier for that confidence to well up. But if we don't engage, if we're not in office, if we're not producing our content, if we're not doing a radio show and doing the sports shop, then it's harder for kids to know that they can do it. That's why examples and role models are so important.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, you brought the fire. You brought the fire tonight, didn't you?
Look, brother, pop your collar. You brought it that time.
Hey, look, I knew he was gonna bring it, but you almost took me out when you threw Quincy Jones out. That's all. Okay. Okay, all right.
No, that's a game changer there.
You go Quincy Jones.
You know what, though? Good brother. I mean, Q. I was on his board, the Listen Up Foundation, for a little bit. And he would, like, when the limousine driver would come, he would often get in the front seat with the dude. He'd always tip nice, but he was like, he was like walking integrity. He was love. He was kind. So he never like, I'm Quincy Jones.
Right.
And you ain't.
Right.
Never, ever.
Yeah.
And you got to have respect for that. You want people like that in your life.
Oh, absolutely.
I can tell how Chucky's sharing and responding that he's a great coach. And because those kids will pick up some of those values. I mean, one of the things I liked about Reese when I met him is that it didn't matter what we were doing. We were brothers. And we were looking out for each other in the work that we were doing. K-Mac, you know what it was like in the companies that we worked in.
Yeah.
You know, part of the thing that was cool about Verizon, which always won some of these diversity awards, was that the idea and the data to support it is what won the day.
Every time.
Less about who you were and what your title was, but are you making sense? Do you have the data to support it? Mm-hmm. What's the customer saying about this offering or that offering? And we got to teach those things. I mean, I tell people, I'll be the first one to tell people, everybody that's white ain't bad, and everybody that's black ain't good.
Right.
We need policing.
Let's keep it 100. That's real talk.
Absolutely.
Okay, so BK, we always try to keep it right at an hour, right? K-Mac, try to honor people for your time. But first of all, let me just say this. First of all, you know, even Chucky took a lot of notes when Randall. See, you have to understand, Randall Pinkett and of course BK, we were all working together back in the day in the CTC net trying to change the world. Yeah. And you can see why I wanted Randall on. Of course, you can see why I wanted BK on. Those two brothers, man, they bring it, man. Seriously, you guys are a tribute to what African American men should be doing, man. And you guys are credit to our race. I mean that seriously.
Well, I mean, right back at you, man. It takes amazing, go amazing.
You guys continue to do amazing work. Before you go, let people know how they can follow your work with the production company. And, you know, the book will be coming out later. We'll get that with the left turn, all, you know, the love stories. We got you. You know, I guess you're going to be writing poems too. You'll be writing poems next, I guess. I don't know. We'll see.
My book is based on a poem.
So, but let people know how they can follow some of your work, man. I know a lot of people are very interested in it. And it's a pleasure to have you on. Like I said, we talked before. I know of you from our Verizon days and some of the work that you've done. And we both had similar experiences that when you walk in the room, they always talk to your people before they talk to you, which is always amazing. But at the end of the day, what do they have to say? Well, let me ask my boss first.
You can find our work at solidify.com, SOULIDIFLY.com. Everything's there. You can Google BK Fulton and find pretty much everything on me. And I'd like to give a shout out to my team because I don't do this work alone. I'd like to give a shout out to my queen, Jackie Stone. She is amazing. And look, brothers, if y'all haven't found your one, you get equally yoked with somebody who has your back and you will not fall.
Watch out there, brother.
It is something special about having someone who loves you in your corner. And if you don't have them yet, make sure you love yourself and treat yourself right. Get that education, get those skills, get that knowledge, get your power. And once you have that, everything that comes with it will be yours. I promise you. I promise you.
Wow. Well, how can we end with that? Hey, Chuck, you have anything before we bounce out of here?
Man, I just love the fact of the things that he touched on. I was writing when I was off screen, so you know, the history, knowing who you are, I think that is so important because a lot of Black people think that our history started with slavery and it didn't.
Right.
and not focusing on the negative, and aiming high, not focusing on the negative is so true because, like as BK was talking, I was thinking about something when I focused on the negative, and how heavy it made things heavy. You know what I'm saying? If it makes sense, but it just made things heavy. Like you're in a fog kind of, and the lift as you climb, that stuff.
Yeah, that's flown there.
Yeah, he didn't, BK didn't bring the fire. He brought a blowtorch with some gasoline is what he did. So, that stuff was heavy, man. That stuff was heavy, and I appreciate it.
You too, bro. You too.
Say, Fritz, anything for Ro?
No questions. Just thank you for your words and your time. It's been a good conversation.
I agree. Thank you.
Outstanding.
The man. Close up.
My brother, it's a pleasure having you on once again. It's a pleasure talking to you. I listened to your VCU speech and I was absolutely floored. I was blown away. I listened to it 3 times that morning, and I just said to myself, well, BK is on. He's on one doing this, but I didn't realize you had your entire production team. So that did.
Yeah, like 8 people working for him and all that. You know
what I'm saying? No credit.
Hey, look. It tell your wife she did an outstanding job with the speech, with the critique. She did a great job with the speech. But it's our pleasure, man. Appreciate it.
And our pleasure. We stay tuned. We're gonna be working with B. Keith and his team about some things particularly on Soul Vision. We're looking forward to that, man. Excited about that. Stay strong, brother. Keep on keeping on, man. We're gonna talk to you down the line, my friend.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Peace.
All right, BK.
All right.